playing golf, visiting. His family was pretty cool. His dad was like a big high school basketball coach. So we'd go up there sometimes and watch, like, it was kind of a hike from college, but we'd go watch his dad play like major championships. And his dad was and is the man there in his hometown. So it was kind of funny watching like a legend, just like, it was like watching like, a college game or like I can't say pro game, but like, watching his dad do his thing was like crazy. Cause he was like loud, aggressive, angry, flipping chairs and stuff. It was like, you felt like it was a pretty serious high school stuff.
Sounds that way.
It's pretty badass.
I have never played a round of golf in my entire life.
You're not really missing much. It's a lot of fun. It's like, it can be like a really enjoyable 3 to 5 hours or a really miserable 3 to 5 hours, depending on like.
See, the thing with golf is it seems like the sort of sport where every once in a while you have like a good round and then you're just constantly chasing that high because like,
yes,
it seems like 98% of the time people play golf, they're just miserable and they're always like pissed off.
Well, those
and
people
they're never
aren't fun. You don't want to play with those people.
Yeah. Well, my first job was at a country club.
Yeah.
There was this thing called this little country club when I was, pretty young. I think I started working there at like 14, just cutting greens and doing the landscaping. And I worked there every summer for like 4 or 5 years.
Which course is that?
It's called Sandy Run.
I did. I'm with you, man. I worked on a course a long time, caddying and stuff like that. So.
Oh, we talked about that.
And you never played around.
No, I would sneak in through a hole in the fence and like shoot a couple. I think I've maybe played like 3 holes.
Wow.
It's just they always looked so pissed off.
It really depends, man. Down here, if it's too hot, it's miserable. But like, it's fun when you play with you play with somebody.
But then there's people who love it.
Yeah, just like you get out there. Yeah, if you get mad, it's a surefire way. If you're easily angered, it's a surefire way to have a bad couple hours.
I do feel like I'm missing out on something though, because the way people talk about golf is like this meditative, cerebral experience for them, and I could probably use a little bit of that in my life, but there's just there's just that side of me where it's not my thing. I like things where I can run and like have intensity and, hit people and kind of be like in a little bit of pain.
I guess what's good about golf is the fact that like you get to, if you have a really bad shot, you get to do it over and try and like improve upon it. So there's like a series of just like hitting the ball and practicing the certain things and like addressing the ball every time. It's weird. There's like a flow to it.
Sure.
And you're not in the flow, it is bad.
It just all goes wrong.
I was doing really well on the back nine yesterday, and then I hit, it was like you ever see that movie Tin Cup?
Of course.
Yeah, I had a Tin Cup moment and like totally just blew my round up and shot and had a 9 on one hole. I just was like, screw it. And I kept dropping the ball and I just wanted to hit it over the water onto the green next to the pin. And it was a 9. wasn't my best moment, but like I had fun. I didn't get pissed and I smiled and my buddy laughed the whole time. He's like, you can go closer. I'm like, no,
can't
same spot.
I'm
hitting the shot no matter. I don't care what the score is. So it's fun though. And then, the next hole I had a chance for a birdie, missed it, but like, that 9 didn't ruin my round. And there are times that can ruin your round. And then when you're an asshole and like you're playing with your boys, they're like, man, like ease up. I've left rounds mid round because like I can't hit the ball and like don't want to further ruin my other friend's round and just like take off and be like, hey guys, I'll meet you out for some food afterwards. But like, I got to go because I'm not enjoying myself. And I know I'm not fun to be around right now. I've actually left a round and,
so I just thought of something right there. What has happened from when you were like a younger kind of super hyper kid to now when you can actually sort of take your time and like enjoy yourself on a golf course? Do you think you just grew up a little bit or?
I don't think I grew up a little bit. I have more of appreciation.
You are kind of like a big kid.
Yeah, no, like it's like more of appreciation. Like I played every summer and summer was like my thing. And ever since starting my own business and really working hard, there's like, I get in my head a lot with that. And I was like, oh, I could be doing this. I could be doing this. I could be doing this. And even though people are like, well, golf should be your outlet, but like, work out, like, stay active and golf, it stopped becoming an outlet. like last year. And I was like, you know what, if I'm thinking about all these things and I'm trying to build a business, I mean, like, it's tough to walk away. You get it. Like you got stuff to do. You have things you need to get done for certain people and clients and everything. And you want to be the best at what you do. If you take 5 hours out of that, you're like, man, did I really, even though I got up early and I did a lot, I could be doing more. And sometimes I walk that fine line if I'm like, am I being too hard on myself? But if I'm not enjoying it, like I had a great round last summer. I was on the 9th hole and I was like, I think it was like 1 under, like, which is like 1 under par, which is good. I was like feeling really good, but like I was so in my head and I was thinking about business. I was thinking about my wife doing something at the business and like being by herself doing it. And I just felt like not guilty. I was just like, man, I should be there. Like, this is something I should be doing. And then I just kind of put down the golf clubs, literally, quite figuratively, took my bag, put it in storage, locked the storage, locked everything away. I was like, I don't even want to be tempted to do it because if it's in my car, I'll find a reason to play. And now coming back this summer, if someone invites me and I can do it and I get everything done, I go. And that's like the best time for me, when I can like work a full day and be like, you know what? I played golf at 4. I was done at 7. It was beautiful.
It takes a long time to figure out the time management stuff. I mean, and you brought it up. Obviously, I brought you on here because we wanted to talk about, well, mostly about your business and what you do, and hopefully like some of the lessons that you've learned along the way, because those are some of the conversations that I enjoy the most. But I think that was like a perfect segue, because one of the lessons I have learned, especially recently, I've been going through this journey like the last 6 months. It's been almost like serendipitous with just the books that have come my way, and sort of like the information that I've been absorbing has been way more sort of anti that sort of like hustle 24/7, let me keep going, and much more like actively use work so that you can enjoy your life, you know, as opposed to like the other way around, like sacrifice your life so that you can work. And then, you know, maybe one day you have some success, but at what cost? And like, what do you do with all that success now that you've basically like lost all the other stuff, you know? So that's been going through my head a lot. And it sounds like from the little bit that you just told me there, that you're kind of finding that little place where you get to do your work and you have your passion for it, but you don't lose sight of like the things that also make you feel good. So yeah, wow, that was like kind of a huge segue. And what I meant to get at is, let's talk about FroPro.
Okay.
Just give like a quick little, if you could, like snapshot as to what you do, what you sell, and what your mission is.
So yeah, no, essentially it's a frozen protein snack bar. You know, it was something created out of a necessity for myself when I was kind of starting over with everything. Made the bar and kind of carried it around. I've been a coach and trainer for a long time, and essentially we created, you know, not we, but like it was a community process, man. I was just making it for myself and shared it with a couple of my clients that I was still training, and still gave me the chance to train them. And you know, one thing led to another, and you know, again, like the process of like going from doing something that I enjoy doing for myself and something that I love, to sharing it with a couple people, to them allowing me to share it with other people that they know, and then those people sharing. And that's kind of like how the product got to where it is today. And we still have a long way to go.
Sure.
But you know, it's really awesome what it's turned into and what we've been able to do with it.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Just like I mean, community is everything for us. You know, not only here, but, you know, sharing it with like, you know, the fortunate thing about South Florida is not everybody, you know, people that are here not always stay here, they leave. And then they're, you know, that you meet somebody and they're like, hey man, you got to try this. And that's kind of what has really essentially been our kind of luck, or like, like how things have unfolded for us.
Yeah, I got
you. With the bar and with meeting certain people and people from past coming through, like Chelsea, my wife, Chelsea, knew somebody that was like, hey, what's your involvement with FroPro? And she's like, oh, my husband started it. And she's like, oh, that's great. Like, you should really bring it to, you know, Whole Foods corporate and let them try it. And it was like our moment, if you will, or one of the moments that kind of like stood out in our kind of process, where we sat there in front of like a table of people that make decisions. And they were like, you know, stern faced, just like sat there and just like looked like, you feel like they were like looking through you and like, just like, all right, what do you got? We like, let's go. And like looking at their clock. And just kind of sharing what we are, what's going on, how it all came about, a little bit about my backstory. And, you know, it just kind of clicked. And for right now it's working, and hopefully it does keep on working. And
I'm sure it will. I think, and that's a great point to bring up. And on that note, it was really funny because after we had dinner the other night, Jules, my fiance, went to Whole Foods and she didn't know that it was there. She's like,
cool.
Tim, you're not gonna believe it. I saw the Pro bar in Whole
Right.
Foods. I was like, yeah, I know. One thing which I remember looking at your site a couple months ago, and it was an observation that I had, and I noticed it because it was so different from the route that like I took.
Right.
And if I could do things differently, well, who knows if I would do things differently, because like it
Make
takes
it who you
mistakes.
are,
Yeah, you know what I mean?
100%.
It takes mistakes to learn lessons, but there are avenues in which I would have done myself a favor by like having one thing and then just kind of getting good at that one thing, as opposed to like trying to do a bunch of different things. Do you think like having one product and one sort of like flagship product that you can hang your hat on or whatever has helped you, or have you looked to like branch out from that at all?
So I think, I mean, that's a great, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of, you know, what we do in the space that we're in, people start things and then they branch off and they do a bunch of different other things. Like we're a snack bar, and like we always joke around, like we're relaxed. It's an effing snack. Like we're a snack bar. We know how to do snack bars, and we do snack bars to the best of our ability. Are we the best out there? I'm going to say yes, because of the snack part, but like there's bars and there's companies that have been out there a long time that do just like a plethora of just different products under the umbrella.
Yeah.
We're really good at what we do, and like coming up with new flavors and testing things out. And we've had a lot of different failures, and a lot of like, it took me almost a year to get coconut right, and coconut's coming out next week. You know what I'm saying?
You
like,
feel good about it?
I feel great about it.
Good.
Like it just, you know, and once you get something and you send it out, and you have to like have another team check it, and scientists, like food scientists, look at it and pick it apart. And like the biggest thing of when you're creating something like that is like having someone else pick it apart. Like you have to hire someone to do this, to do, you know, to just do everything else that like I'm not good at. And I learned like, I'm not going to be good at everything. I'm not going to please everybody, but I know how to make a really, really good snack bar. Do I want to do like a protein powder? Sure. It would be great. But like, I'm not there yet. And like, I was always told, like, since I kind of started over, like follow what you're good at. You know, there's you and I have read and seen the same thing, double down, triple down on what you're good at.
Yeah.
And like, you don't have to be a master of everything. Just be a master of something you're really good at it and share it. And that's kind of like how
I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Like that's all and again, that's just me regurgitating something I learned from somebody else who's been around a lot longer than me, you know, and I kind of work off those things, because I tried doing it my way, and you and I both know I've tried doing it my way, and my way hasn't really worked. But
sure, and you know that's a whole nother conversation.
100%.
But I'm curious as to what it feels like to have your product kind of go through. I'm stuttering a little bit just because I don't know the terminology. Like if you have a food scientist, or you have to get your product registered maybe, or like certified through a health board.
There's so many there's so many checks and balances. Like first you have the Department of Agriculture. They come in, they look at your space. Is your space safe? Is your space appropriate? If it's not, and you have a product, they do two things. They do both. Well, two things they absolutely do. They shut you down until you become compliant.
Okay.
Or they give you like a window to kind of correct what's going on. And like, if you're a huge company, again, this is my understanding. Fortunately, we haven't had to go through it, where you have to pull all your product back if it's not right.
If it's on the shelves already.
If it's already on the shelves.
And again, when you say your space, you mean like where you actually make
where
your
you
food
actually
product.
Produce the product.
Okay.
And as long as that's up to code and up to what they have, then you go like, you know, the FDA, if you're going to go the FDA route. Going into Whole Foods, and going through that process, it was a year-long process. And the final step to that was their own third-party group of people that come in that, you know, the state and like the whole government regulations, they're like, that's cool. That's great. I'm glad you passed that. But like, this is who we have. This is our third party that double checks, triple checks, quadruple checks.
So they're almost like a contracted organization.
Like we're going to bring in somebody from the outside,
okay,
you know, just in case, because like this is important that this product is what you say it is. And it's like everything down to the, you know, hand washing things to like how clean you are, what sanitizers you use, like how you clean your spaces. Are you using organic products? Are you using, you know, chemical products that could be harmful? And I learned, learn a lot. I knew nothing about this years ago.
Listening to you
is still is like, it's like a learning experience. But like when you have that, and then once you get it right, and then like, let's say like we just opened our new space. We have a new kitchen. We have a, you know, we're not sharing a space anymore, and it's a great thing. But it's just funny, like we've had the same inspector every time. And the best part is every time he comes in, he goes, "You guys get better every time I come. You always have a nice space, always clean, always have this, but like it gets better every time I come here. Like you guys are,
that's great.
Not, you know, like you're not that the word skimping. He's like, you're not leaving anything out. Like you're doing it 100%.
Resting on your laurels, so to speak.
Yeah, you're doing it
always
the right
looking
way.
to improve.
Right.
It's cool to like see the look on your face when you talk about that, because one thing that like I just love about coming into my office every day and just watching people like you and like a lot of the other guests that I've had here who just kind of have an idea and take it. It isn't so much like the success story behind it. It's the lessons. I don't know, like you really find parts of like yourself that you didn't really know when you have something you want to do and you have kind of an endpoint and there's no path that you know of to get there. You're literally just like, okay, what's the next thing I can do that's going to get me a little bit closer? And then you do it, and then you're kind of like,
now what?
Like, okay, what do I do next? And I just find that process to be really like fascinating, and I find it to be really liberating at the same time, because God, I almost get like stuck for words just because of how much I respect that process, because there's nobody looking over you telling you that like you have to do it this way, and there's no bailout.
No one's looking over you, but there are people that will, you know, there are people that have valid suggestions. Any suggestion is good. And a lot of the times it's people that don't know what they're, you know, I'm sure you know, that will offer unsolicited advice.
Sure, but I'm not even talking about the advice. I'm talking, you know, like you don't get graded on it.
Oh, I understand.
You either just like you figure out how to do it, or you just fail. Yeah, you know, and the cool thing about it is that failure is completely an option. I love those shirts you say it was like failure is not an option. Like that's a silly thing to say.
Was that like a remember No Fear? It was like
no fear.
Like failure is not an option. I remember that.
It's always an option, and a lot of times I think it's a good option because you learn a lot when you fail.
Yeah.
And on that note, you had mentioned that you had a lot of failures. What do you think is like some of the hardest lessons you've learned in this process?
In life, or just like for in regards to like FroPro and building a business?
Well, I was talking in regards to FroPro. You said you had a bunch of mistakes that you made.
Yeah. You know, right off the rip, I learned no one's going to care about FroPro as much as I do. I mean, my wife does 100%. Like she's now fully invested into it. When it was started, it was something that was like, I couldn't ask for anybody's help. I could, but like, it wasn't like I was afraid to ask, but I was doing something. I was kind of proving it to myself. Like, can I do this? Can I balance, you know, training, coaching, working a corporate job, making bars on the side? Like there was a period of time where it was like, again, like you talk to any, again, hobbyist, as I've, you know, someone said, like, this isn't a business yet, it's a hobby in the very beginning. And like, even books and videos that I watch are like, you know, if you're not burning the boats, or you're not, you know, like walking like full force, like with your brand or whatever you're trying to build, then like you're just doing a hobby. And I was like, wow, man, that really hurts, because I felt like I was given 100. Yeah, there's always a bailout plan, or like I always have a backup plan. And you know, I don't have a backup plan. You know, would I come up with something if my back was against the wall? Yes, because I've had my back up against the wall, of course, from my own decisions,
of course.
And like, okay, what's next? You know, but I think like, you know, just kind of like looking at the process, looking at some of the failures. You know, I first kitchen I was ever in, you know, buddy let me use his space, rent his space, trusted him, went to him, sought advice. And it's like, this is not going to be a great example because it's going to like, man, it's like paranoia, but like essentially that person and, you know, I've come to terms with it, and there's been like forgiveness and all that other thing. But essentially that person took my product and tried to put it into their own business. It went from, let's do this together, to, no, I don't want to do this, to, hey, I can't have you be in this space anymore, and turning around and doing a product. So like, I don't know if that was a failure, more along the lines of like a life lesson. And again, like, I had my product out in the very beginning. Another example, just like we were talking about before, and it was basic packaging. I thought I was doing the right thing based on what I had known. And it was like, again, very limited knowledge. And someone came in and saw it, shared at a yoga event. And it happened to be someone from the board, like the Board of Health, contacted me and was like, so this is a great product. Let me tell you what's wrong. Your packaging isn't right. This isn't right. And you have, again, two choices. Pull all the product. I can be there. And they were great, like super nice. Pull all the product. And at that time, we were still very small. So pulled all the product. Don't sell any more product. And I'll be out there to inspect. And if it's inspected and proven, you just have to invest in redoing your labels. Now, at that time, when you're starting a business,
that's a big hit.
It's a couple thousand, it's a couple of $1,000s that you have to literally throw in the garbage and start from scratch, but not from scratch, but from where you were, and build and just say, all right, add this, 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 and this. You learn,
What was wrong with it?
The address wasn't like, you had to have an address of where it was produced. And I just had, literally I had FroPro snack bar. Like I started with like cellophane wrapper, white label that just said FroPro, and on the back, like a stamp that said contains peanuts. And then I went to something that I thought like was like the thing. I was like, man, I arrived with this package, and I look back at that package. I'm like, wow, that was so just like rudimentary and just like basically just like I wouldn't buy it in a store if I saw it. But like where we were, it was like family and friends and people in the community giving it out and passing it out and selling it. And now we're at a point where like you can walk into a Whole Foods in Palm Beach County and buy the product, and it's legit.
Man, what's it feel like to say that?
It's like one of the coolest things. And my wife and I, every time we go and we check on our account, we check on everything.
Do you ever just go to Whole Foods?
We go every Sunday. we go multiple times a week just to make sure the presentation and display, like we just want to make sure it looks right.
That it looks good.
It's our home base.
Yeah, but what I'm asking.
Oh, I know what you're asking. And the best part is when you see someone you don't know buy it. And you see them look at it and be like, oh, and like you see the process of buying something and the choice of like they flip it. And that was the biggest thing when we're testing the product. And before we even got in there, I would stand like almost like creepily in Whole Foods where they had bars, and I would watch people buy stuff. And I said, hey, I'm sorry I don't want to, my name's Matt. And I just told him who I was. Why did you buy? I would always ask people, why did you choose that bar? And I found out why people chose it. Like, believe it or not, like one of the craziest things, there's some bars that have like that flip where you have to flip. Like, there's like that fold, and they'd have to flip up the
like
information.
This thing right here. I wish this was a FroPro bar. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. So exactly that. You had to flip it over. And they're like, oh, well, this product doesn't have this in it. And I was like, yeah, but the product you were just looking up that you put down had that in it. And they're like, where? And I flipped up the thing. They're like, oh, if I have to flip
just
something up and do
flip.
work, I don't need it. I was like, wow, like, how do you make a product easier? Our product, it's literally right on the back. You don't have to flip anything. It's ingredients right there, everything, the benefits of it. And then it just says the product. So it's everything in and out. So you flip it, you can look at it, and then like watching someone do that, buy it. And there's times where, again, like it's just really satisfying. There's like some restaurants that sell it, and like you're sitting there and you watch someone buy it. Or like I was working out today, and I took a photo with like the class, and they're like, what is this for? And the instructor's like, oh yeah, my buddy Matt from FroPro wanted to post it on his line, on his site. And the lady's like, I buy FroPro all the time. Wait, who? What? And I met a new person because she's like, oh, I buy it all the time. My husband and I go biking. We take it when we go hiking or walking, and like, it's great. It's a great snack. I buy it at Whole Foods all the time. I was like, wow, like genuinely, like, just like, that is so effing cool.
It really is.
And like, just like, I don't want to say satisfying, because like, there's always like, what's next? But it's just like, I feel like I'm doing something to help somebody out. Does that make sense?
Of course it does. I've thought about that a lot, because there's this weird like internal battle between like, is this a selfish thing that, I'm like providing for myself and like I'm trying to make money and also am I being of service, you know? And what I've discovered in my head is it feels really good to make a living doing something good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's like the
Yeah.
perfect way to do it. Like everybody has to make a living, and there's plenty of ways to make a living that have a negative impact, but also just don't really have an impact.
Right.
You know, I'd say there's a whole lot of ways to do that.
Sure.
But in order to like do something that adds value to somebody's life or lives, whatever, while also adding value to your life and like the lives of your family and the people around you, like that's just such a that's great, you know, like that's
Yeah.
just a win-win for everybody. And it's really cool to just kind of see your face with that whole thing. I remember when I'm I'm kind of jealous in a way because out of all the stuff I've done, I always wanted to have like a product. And that
Mm.
was the whole reason why I'm wearing one of those shirts now. I cut it up by
Right.
my t-shirt company,
Right,
you know?
right.
And it never really took off. And I think it's because I don't have much of a passion for clothes, as most people can tell by the way I dress. I dress like I'm still a skateboarder, like I'm
You're
15.
comfortable, man. That's,
Yeah.
It's where it's at.
But what I always hoped for was that I would be walking down the street and I would walk past somebody that was wearing one of my t-shirts, and it
Mm.
never happened. And yeah, I would see the Instagram pictures and like I knew they were walking down the street with that was wearing one of my shirts,
It's
you know?
awesome.
And like,
It's so
yeah,
awesome.
it was really cool, but I don't know, like watching you have that experience where you're just doing your thing and then you come across somebody whose life that I mean, impact isn't too strong of a word, like whose life you impacted through the work that you do.
Sure.
You know, like
Yeah, one of the
it's just cool.
yeah, no, one of the coolest ones is, and it's kind of weird because like it's such a small community and people, like I said, travel all over the place. And someone sent me a picture. They were like, they were like kayaking, something like kayaking, or canoe, something like on the water and like some island not too far from here.
Mhm.
And they're like, dude, I was kayaking and like, no joke, I passed somebody in a Fropro hat. And I was like, yo, bro, you Fropro? And like, I was like, oh, that's so and so. They were out there this weekend. That's so weird that like you ran into them. And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, no, it's so funny. Like I just saw you know, like I saw your hat, and like it's just funny, man. Like I I don't I don't know how to describe it other than like it's like a really like it's a really like humbling feeling to just be
Yeah.
like, I'm doing something that I love. I get to share it with somebody. That person, if they like it, will share it with somebody else. And it's like that domino effect. Like, yeah, it's a great snack bar. And like what we're doing behind it, if, you know, people like, oh man, I never knew. And they like check
Mhm.
out our site, or they like talk to someone like, oh man, you like, you know, oh, you got to talk to, you know, so-and-so. Like it's cool, man. And it's like, it's awesome.
So let me touch a little bit more into some more technical type aspects of it.
Sure.
Most people know about me that I'm really into digital. Like I have a passion for it. I love doing it, especially the content creation.
Right.
From listening to you, and this is totally an assumption, so correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like your marketing strategy has really just been word of mouth, getting involved with people face to face. Like you probably do a lot of meet and greets.
Demos. Yeah.
That's almost a question. Like, has that been your marketing strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, everything. Once we have like the certain platforms and gyms, and like, again, like the fit.
You go into gyms a lot?
I go into gyms all the time. Like, I'll support local gyms, buy packages, like whatever I can. I like different. My attention span, like I said before, I like to bounce around. I like trying different things.
Mhm.
I like different instructors. I like different like modes of like and modalities that like people do. I love it. So bounce around and just have a blast, you know, and you know, sometimes it's just like, you know, the question of, you know, I'm going to share this product and people like it. Great. If not, it's usually word of mouth. It's been the community. You know, we've done, you know, social media is huge. You know, one of the things that I always said I'd do that I just started doing since we opened our new spot was a little bit more videos of things that, you know, again, are just things that I've learned along the way, or people have passed along to me that may be helpful to other people. And, you know, at one point it was like, you know, I really, again, we always, you know, we can always care about what someone else thinks and what someone else has to say. And, you know, I just started doing these videos, and I know you've been doing them a long time. I've watched yours and I've watched other people's, and it's just kind of like, why not me? Like I've watched early, like, certain people that we may or may not watch, like a Tony Robbins or like a Gary Vee or like Lewis Hose or any one of those guys, or House, or whatever, how you ever say his last name. And you watch these guys, they started somewhere, and it wasn't like they were just like rocking it out on social media right off the rip. Maybe some of them, but it's just like getting out of my comfort zone and other things that I kind of want to do in regards to what we're doing, in terms of like the just like the charity aspect of it, and like the, getting out. I used to be a teacher. So like, did you have DARE when you were a kid?
Of course.
You remember that program?
Yeah, I remember it really well.
Like, it was a great program, and it was scary because the cop from your local community would show up and you're like, oh man, like I don't want to see him. Like, like if I run into this guy, it's usually not a good thing. And I don't, like, if I remember correctly, it was a scary program, and I was trying to scare. And I don't feel like,
I agree.
With so much access to information today, like I hear again, parents and kids, like, being my story and my background, be like, hey, can you talk to my kid, or can you lend me an idea of what I should do? And I mean, there's so much information out there, and kids can essentially get access to so much information. It's almost like that's an outdated program. And like, there's some things that I would love to do where it's just like real, like this is, if you're going to go down this certain path, this is what to expect. Like, if you do and you pursue it in the wrong, I don't want to say the right, there's no right or wrong way, but I went down the wrong way.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And like, there's the path to that. And like, no one ever said like, hey, if you get this certain thing happening to you, it's going to cost you about $10,000. Yeah. Probably wouldn't have stopped me, but like, at least I would have been like, oh, well, I don't have that.
Yeah.
And like, just like some things that like, at least there's like, since there's so much knowledge about certain things out there and so much information, is like, I feel like that's the one thing like we shy away from. I mean, there's, I don't want to segue into like the crisis we have here in the country with like drugs and alcohol, but like, there's a lot of things out there that I feel like are just like kept in the dark.
Well, so hold on, I'm a little bit confused. Are you saying that you would like to kind of make an expansion from the work that you do with FroPro to kind of help in those regards with some of the problems that you see in society, like in this case, especially with drug and alcohol? Do you see them as like two different things that you want to do with your life?
Well, I think it's like not an expansion of it. There's like a branch of it.
Sure.
Because like obviously we have.
You want to give back.
Yeah, I want to give back. Like I've been able to work with like a charity that.
Who was it?
Runwell. I think I told you about it. It's the one that I partnered with for the New York City Marathon. It was like
of course,
raising money to help people with drug and alcohol issues that can't afford treatment. So it was, you raise money, you run the race, you have a blast, and it donates to charity. And I was like, man, that was such a fulfilling thing. And then I was like, well, how can FroPro give back? And this year we're sponsored, last year we sponsored a runner to go to the marathon. This year we're sponsoring another runner to go to the marathon. It's like to kind of just keep that, like, if you're doing the right thing and you're in the, if you've had to start your life over, for lack of a better, term, like restart your life and like do things a little bit differently and learn a different way without the use of drugs and or alcohol. It was like a kind of cool thing, like that I went through, that somebody else is going through. And like, I'm really super fit. And if someone else, like, if they're saying like, I'm really super fit and I want to do this, but I can't because of A, B, or C, like if we can help with one of those, like we will, like try to kind of focus on that, giving back. And because someone did it for me. You know what I mean? Like Runwell didn't have, like I didn't have to.
That was exactly where I was thinking.
Runwell, and there's another, another local organization two of my buddies started that, provides a safe place for people to work out that can't otherwise afford it. And it's right in our backyard. So there's like, talking about crisis and all that other thing, and I don't want to get into that, but it's just like, there's some like really positive things happening in the community that like aren't dark and like what most people see, like what the news reports and all that other stuff. There's like really good things happening.
So much. And there's been this sort of idea floating around in my own head. And I've only ever talked to Jules about it a couple times, because I'm totally with you. I've seen so much of the lighter side of, the addiction problem. Like I've seen so much positive come out of the lives that are changed and like the people that I've gotten to know. And I think like you being just one of my friends who's like a really shining example of that. And, once you get to that point where you have so much to give and you have so much to be grateful for, like inevitably you start thinking of ways to give back. And I've been thinking a lot about a way that I could start some kind of like, I don't even know how to explain it, almost like an entrepreneurial foundation for people in recovery.
Mhm.
And for two reasons. One, because a lot of times people with addiction problems aren't educated.
Mhm.
So they kind of get like screwed in this weird spot where it's like, well, I have a record
Mhm.
and I don't have a college degree, so I guess I'm just gonna
Not that there's anything wrong with it. And I'm just going to use this to answer.
for
I want to
sure.
work at Starbucks because I'm seeing a Starbucks cup. You know, like some people are like, man, I'm going to work a Starbucks job for the rest of my life.
And that's great.
And that's great because
Yeah.
people that work there do really well for themselves.
Well,
but it's like, yeah, what you're saying, it's like you can get those kind of jobs and maybe you're gifted in something else. But if you have a record, as you stated,
it's
it makes it
difficult.
really tough.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you said that because all work is noble.
Yes.
My father,
100%.
like, really, really, and my mom too, used to drill that into my head, regardless of who you are, where you come from, or what like your quote status is.
Sure.
Like, all work is noble. And on like the second part of it, like it's difficult for quote recovered addicts to get to that spot if they have a record, but also, and I don't have any like evidence to prove this, it's just been my own observation, a lot of times people with that kind of past are really, really intelligent because you have to have like a lot of creative thinking to like survive in that kind of lifestyle for so long.
Yes.
And like I've just noticed that a lot of people in recovery make good entrepreneurs because they're so used to providing for themselves. And even though they've been providing for themselves like at the bottom, like they're still figuring it out, you know, and there's usually like a little bit of obsession that is in the mind of somebody that's had addiction problems, which if you can learn how to harness it, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
can work really well in building a business. And I've always just seen that as a way that like I can give back because I don't know, like what am I? You know what I mean? I don't I'm
You're a successful business owner.
yeah, but I'm even still like in the grand scheme of things, you know, I'm still like a tiny little thing, but I just feel like that's one lesson I've learned that I can pass on to like other people. You know, I just don't know how to put it. I can't think of how to put it together. Where like, how would you market that? Like, like.
So I watched this TED talk on I can't remember how long ago, but it was all about how like the decriminalization of drugs in, I think it was Portugal. And they took like, instead of like,
Oh yeah, the statistics for that are pretty amazing.
Right. Like what they've done and what other countries have done. And, you know, again, it's going to take a lot, but like essentially take Joe the mechanic. Joe the mechanic has a troubled past. He's using and he's having a really rough go. Instead of throwing Joe in jail for continuously using and continuously having issues,
yeah,
they put the money towards helping him recover and then say, all right, man, you're like the best mechanic here in town. We're going to put you up with this mechanic shop. And guess what? We're going to take the money, instead of like giving it to the jails and doing that. We're going to take that money and we're going to go to this business owner and say like, ABC mechanic, we're giving you Joe. Joe's really good. We're going to pay for the first 3 months of half of Joe's salary. You're going to pay. And if Joe does a good job, you're going to hire Joe at the end of that, because it's going to be kind of like his entrance back into society. And a lot of the times, like you and I both know from our experience and like what we've seen in observations is like, you know, there's some good work programs. And again, like right out of my own story is like, I started, you know, I wasn't teaching anymore. I wasn't coaching anymore. It was like not going to happen right away if I wanted to, and almost lost that complete privilege during the process of losing everything. Is, well, what am I good at? Well, I can make food. And it was like, you know, no one said, all right, here's a cafeteria, here's a food prep company that you can work for. There was a guy, he said, are you good at this? Great. Show up this day, cook this food. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no, how do you find that out? So it's funny you say an entrepreneurial type of like a foundation or something like that.
Yeah.
I had the same conversation with a buddy of ours years ago. And he's like, I want to start a school of excellence, and excellence for people that are starting over. And he wanted to call it, what's the word? Arete. And it's like a school of like, it's a thought process of moral excellence.
Yeah.
And it's always stuck with me, and always
Greek,
something that I was just, always something that I was like, man, like how, you know, if other places have done it, and it's not like, again, a lot of the stuff that you and I have both experienced is learned experience from others passed down. And when we go on we either use it and take the suggestions, or we like sometimes can bang our heads, fall down and fail. And I wanted to add the one point you talk about, that obsessive, I want to do something. And, you know, instead of channeling it in the bad way, using it for something good and building. I think also too, people that are recovering really understand failure and what it means to fail, and the utmost failure of complete bottomed out, whatever bottom you experience, whether it's economic, financial, spiritual, emotional, physical, you know, sometimes a combination of some or all.
Yeah.
And like, if you can, like, again, like you said, if you can kind of steer that and like put that in a positive light, or if you start an organization that's like, hey, we know that you're really good at this. We're going to help you know that you're good at this and kind of plug you into someone that can help you get better at this. It's work. And that's like the whole people helping people thing. Like, I know a buddy of mine that really had his heart set on a program, worked his ass off, school, didn't get into the program. Through friends of friends, I reached out to a buddy. I was like, hey man, this guy's really gung-ho about this program and it fits your business. Can you talk to him? Guy talked to him, realized what he was trying to do, and like is of the same mindset of like helping other people and like giving people chances, and was like, you know what, rather than pass him off, I'm going to hire him and I'm going to give him a shot. Okay. And I just sat back and I was like, holy shit. Yeah. I was like, got denied. You know what I'm saying? Like, you still did the right thing. You didn't give up. And like, you go, you know, it's like you show up. It's like, I don't know how to put it into words. Like, I'm still like kind of like reeling over it because it just happened like a week or two ago. And I was just like, man, that's so effing cool, because it could have gone a totally different way, you know? So like, I think, you know, what your thought process is of like that entrepreneurial, whatever someone's good at, facilitating that and just figuring out how to like plug in. And I think, you know, do those things. And a lot of the times, as I'm sure you know, when people, like when you were starting this out and you were building your own business, I'm sure you had people come along and say, hey, well, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Or
a few of them.
You're not gonna do anything with that. And
that used to happen.
Why don't you get a job? Again, all work is noble. I've worked 1,000 different jobs. Like, if you know, like they say, if you're the best person at driving a truck, drive a truck. If you're the best person at making McDonald's fries, make McDonald's fries. Sure. If you're a burger flipper, flip burgers. Like, if you know how to do internet marketing, if you know how to do whatever it is, if you're good at it and you like it, you'll find a way to do it.
And you'll find
and do it well
in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had said something which has stuck in my mind a lot, and that's the whole failure thing. And I always saw that as almost an advantage for people that have kind of hit a low point in their life, where there would be a lot of times where I was coming across something that was really difficult. Right. And I would replay in my mind some of like the challenges that I've had to get through in my life because of, you know, some of my past decisions. And, you know, I don't want to get too graphic, but like the physical symptoms that would happen, you know, as like your body is healing. And I would think to myself, like, if I got through that, then like I can get through anything.
Right.
You know, and I feel like having those experiences makes you a whole lot less afraid of like the worst case scenario. Because even sometimes I think about it, if all of this stuff, who knows, implodes somehow. Goes away. Right. You know, like, yeah, that fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I'm going to be fine. And it's all because of that experience I've had that like really just hardens you, you know. And I think that that's like, I think that is looked upon as a liability, when in reality, especially if you're trying to do something like build a business, it's a real asset.
It's a complete strength.
Yeah, complete strength.
I echo those words before, when it's like, you know, if there's all, like I've said, I think, you know, and if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, or it all goes away tomorrow, you know, figure something out.
I'll figure something out.
Like, because been through a lot worse. And like they, you know, you've heard it like that, you know, like, oh man, like if you're going to take your problem today versus like your problem back in the day, like you may want to take the problem you're talking about now back and be like, man, that's really not a problem. Like, I'm not seeing it through. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. At least that's my experience with, like, you know, some of the things where it's like, you know, we look back, and again, it's, you know, as you expand and as you grow, like I get to work with some really cool clients, and I learn a lot from them that are just straight business guys and just businessmen that are just dealing with high finance or, you know, like incredible amounts of sales or things. I learn from them what they do and what they handle. And the great thing is like, you know, if I'm working out with them and like, you know, you're just, you know, bullshitting, you know, if you're really listening, you can like learn exactly and hear the commonality, which is, you know, I'm doing as much as I can for my business, just like I'm here doing as much as I can for my fitness, doing as much as I can for my health. Like, and at the end of the day, it comes down to like those things. It's like, I'm going to do all these things and I can either choose to be afraid of everything that I'm about to do, or I can face it head on and just be like, listen, man, I've learned that like there's a lot darker and scarier places out there.
Yeah.
And like, this is really not one of them.
You're talking to you. You're extremely grateful.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with why you're doing so well, because I think that energy really, really comes across when you talk to other people. I think it's very obvious when you're talking to customers or your clients that you're just appreciative even for the opportunity to be like working with them or, you know, providing them with this snack that you put so much of your soul into.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, so much of I don't know, I don't want to keep using the word entrepreneurial, one, because I just don't like that word, but two, because like I don't think it fits. Like so much of just the satisfaction story and the problem with people being like satisfied with what they have in our culture is, I think, just a direct result to like lack of gratitude, you know,
Right.
because somebody always has it better. And I think when like you have that mindset that like you just have everything that you need, like people really, really feed from that. I'm feeding off it just talking to you, you know, because I get in that spot in my head as well.
You know, it's crazy. Like you guys were pretty helpful in the thing we did 2 years ago with like the Foot Locker commercial. And you know, it's like I really wanted to come in and like tell my story. And I was like, hopefully I'll be able to get to do it. And it was just funny how you and I came together for a buddy's birthday. And I was like, man, let's just do this before you like head out.
I know I'm out of here.
And like and head to Nashville. And it was a great fit, you know.
Sure.
But like, you know, like what, you know, the whole idea of you know, kind of, you know, stepping back and saying like, okay, I'm satisfied, and kicking your feet up, or just like, you know, the whole idea of retiring. Like my brother, it's funny. I talk to my brother and like I seek advice from people a lot older than me, obviously, and people that are younger than me that have built things. Like, you know, one of our mutual friends has built a great big business and like does very well for himself and is one of the more humble guys that we know. But like, you know, I was talking to my brother and I was like, he's like, so what's your plan? And I was like, man, I'm just going to keep, you know, I'm just trying to keep growing and doing what I'm doing. And, you know, like, not, train as much. And he's like, well, let me ask you a question. He goes, you love that, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, so why would you stop doing it? And like, it hit me because like, I was like, whoa, wow. I didn't have an answer. Yeah. And I was like, well, I would, he's like, no, focus, Pro 100%. Right.
Sure.
But if you get to work with some people and have some fun improving their lifestyle and health, why would you stop?
Why would you stop the training?
And I was like, I literally, I was like, you're right. I don't know why I would do it. He goes, right. So again, if you love what you do, why would you stop doing it? And I think a lot of the times, I love teaching. I love working with other people. I love coaching. I loved everything, but I lost the right to do that in a school setting.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't making really good decisions in terms of my outside life, and like, I thought I'd never be able to do that again, but I get to do that every day. I get to work with people every day. I get to learn from you. Like, we get to communicate. Like, I think a lot of the things is that comfort level, but like, and this is going to sound terrible. Like, we opened 2 months ago and like, it's a shiny new place. It's great. It's like a fun toy. I'm looking at it and like, this is so awesome. And fortunately, I'm like, what's next?
Yeah.
And I constantly have the what's next. Not in a bad way, like I'm not present and appreciating, but I'm like, okay, how do we go from here to sharing this here? And I learned that from, again, talking to people that have,
you need
constant
that
state of building and constant state of, all right, so like, this is good here. How do I do a branch of something else to outreach to, community? Or how do I outreach to, kids or the population that I feel like certain things aren't being said to, you know what I mean? Like,
of course I know what you mean. And it is like a weird dichotomy because it's a constant balance between being grateful and
Right.
being unsatisfied.
Right.
But what I have learned, and I've learned this honestly just through like walks and like watching nature, is the way that nature works is that as soon as things stop growing, they start dying. And like you can look at anything, you know, just life.
like that.
Like as soon as things stop growing, they start dying.
Yeah, so no stagnant. Yeah, can't get.
Yeah,
like I hear stagnant all the time. It's like if you're standing still, you're moving backwards, and I was always like, man, I don't really know if I like that.
Yeah.
Because being still and like being, I'm like, because again, you can dissect that any way you want.
Yeah, get
like,
deep with it.
Again, if I really like that. If you're not growing, you're dying.
It helps me.
Huh.
It helps me like feel okay with wanting to keep going, you know, because there's that other force. It's like, man, Tim, just relax. Like, yeah, everything is fine. Like you're healthy. You got like this great girl in your life. You have like a home. You got friends. Like you have everything, you know. But then there's that other side of me that's just like, oh, like what else? What else? What else? And so it helps me be comfortable with that like inner dialogue that keeps me wanting to grow.
Right.
Man, here's like the point where I know that like if we keep going, we could really just keep rolling with this conversation. 100%. I like certainly appreciate you coming in here.
I appreciate you having me.
Man, how can I help with like your message and what you're doing? It's so cool to me. It's so cool to watch how you've grown. You know, I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. I don't expect you to have like an answer, but I want to find a way that I can do something, like even if we do this podcast again, or if I can help promote your videos or whatever, like let me know, man. I want to see you do well.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, it's like, again, you know, a lot of things about this that I don't know. And, you know, any critique of like, you know, doing, I'm trying these like little videos that are like 1 minute or less and practicing and getting better. And it's, you know, again, getting it out there and understanding again, how social media works, how, you know, certain business mediums work and getting out of my comfort zone that I don't know. So like, I'm a sponge when it comes to that stuff. And sometimes like, it's like right over my head and I'm like, man, I don't know what you just said. I don't know what that means. And,
yeah, that's okay.
You know,
it seems like every single time I've had a podcast with somebody that's doing something creative, the same exact theory, or maybe not theory, like, the same thing keeps popping up, because like my motto that I say to myself with my website and with my podcast is like, just keep hitting publish. No matter how like insecure you feel about it, or how, you know, like what's everybody going to think about this video or anything, you just hit publish. And once you hit it, you can close your eyes and ignore all the comments and all that shit if you need to. But the point is, you just keep making it and you keep like putting your art out there, and eventually it'll compound and like really turn into something. I've never seen it not happen. And I don't think that you're going to be the first.
Right. Well,
you know,
there's always the first for everything, right?
Sure. Well, look, man, thank you so much for coming in. Before you sign off, where can everybody find your stuff? Where can they buy some of it?
Yeah, if you're local in South Florida, Whole Foods, you know, the 4 Whole Foods here, Jim's Juice Bars. But to get in contact with us, it's www.gofropro.com. So where do you go to find FroPro? Gofropro.com.
Nice.
On Instagram, same thing, GoFroPro, and Facebook the same way, Twitter the same way, and LinkedIn, you can look for me, Matthew Williams, on the LinkedIn business account. So
cool.
Yeah, pretty simple. There's a lot of Matthew Williams out there, but if you search, you know, if you search FroPro guy in South Florida, you'll probably find me. But
cool. And I'll link all that up to the show notes of the blog post.
Cool.
Thanks so much.